Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. My name is Soleil and I garden in a Zone 5B in mid-Michigan, and today is our day for our garden tour and walkabout, and it is a gorgeous day out. It has been in the mid-70s today, partly cloudy, and just a glorious day leading into fall. So I actually took a little bit of time off work today and was able to get a few things done, and that made me super happy. Sometimes I feel like you just don't even know how much there is to do in the garden until you kind of take some time to get out there, spend some time in the garden, and really just walk around and do what needs doing. And I had a lot of fun doing that today. So our grass plantings over here on the deck are looking amazing. We've got a lot of people outside today in the neighborhood, so you may hear some background noise because everybody's enjoying the day today. We also have this gorgeous hydrangea that just keeps on going, and it's got some beautiful, beautiful blooms. I will be leaving those on for quite some time. They help provide some wonderful winter interest as well. But at some point, once we get into the deep winter, a lot of times I will cut back those panicle hydrangeas that are in the garden that are not lace cap, because they can get weighed down heavily with ice and snow, and that's not a good thing because the branches can snap off. So our pots are looking nice in the potager today. I think everything's looking real healthy. I actually have some blooms on this peach foxglove. I planted a few of these this year, and this is the only one that has come through with the blooms for me. But that's all right. I don't mind. Sometimes I just kind of throw things out there and see what will do what it does, without me really giving it a whole lot of help, because that's the way that I like to garden. I like to, give things a chance to thrive, but not give them too much external support, because I have a lot of things to do. I work full time and I've got a family, and I don't know about you guys, but I love to enjoy my garden more than I want to work in the garden. I enjoy working in the garden definitely a ton. I don't even find it to really feel like work, but yeah, I like to make sure that I can enjoy it as well. So here we are looking at the Tian Shan 7 sunflowers, and they are covered in pollinators. So we are in the second week of blooms right now, and I anticipate probably by the end of next week they will be through flowering. It has been amazing to see the hummingbird has come through and enjoyed these blooms, and it has just been a fantastic addition to the garden, and it should continue to get quite a bit taller than this. These can get up to 12 to 15 feet tall probably, so they'll be like a small tree form. I want to show you these planters. They haven't looked that fabulous lately because we got so much rain, but I just want to show you a little bit about how the foliage is coloring up here on those geraniums. Isn't that gorgeous? Just some beautiful fall color right there. The rhubarb has sprouted again and given me some really big leaves because of the fact that we got so much rain again. And I've been harvesting tomatoes and giving them away to the neighbors recently, which has been fantastic. I just love a fresh garden tomato. We have some beautiful blooms still continuing to go on here, and the mums are starting to open up in this garden bed. Isn't it lovely? We even have some pink hues happening on this Rainbow Sensation Weigela, and that's because it really does provide a rainbow of color here. So, so pretty. Now I have come through here and I have removed the Patriot hostas from in front of this shed just to make room for whatever comes next, and I haven't completely decided, but I thought it would be helpful just to kind of take them out and look at what space that I have and see whether I really need to take maybe a little bit of other plant material out to make room for whatever is next there. I just didn't really like the way that they were performing, and I feel like I could do better and enjoy something even more. So that's what we're working on there. I just want to give you a little view of the Tian Shan 7 sunflowers from the back here with that privet hedge that has the beautiful glowing top on it. I think it's so pretty from this side. Our shade border over here, well, I should say we actually get quite a bit of sun right here, and then we move into the shade as we go. but it's looking really nice. And I came through here and I took out the 2 very small barberries that were sitting in front of the hellebores over here. And while they were only about 18 inches tall, it's amazing sometimes what can happen when you take a couple of plants out. It gives you a whole new perspective. Sometimes just changing 1 or 2 things can make you think about some changes that you might not have otherwise. And I'm really enjoying this garden bed right now and thinking about some of the things that I want to do. I want to definitely incorporate a little bit more of that sedum because I think it really does light up the area. So that's the coral jade sedum, and it seems to do quite well here. So hopefully I can divide a little bit of that and spread it around. And we have some beautiful new blooms on this Bar Harbor Seaside Serenade hydrangea over here. Most of the hydrangeas, though, are pretty much done blooming for the season. This one has definitely turned its nice limey green, and it's at the perfect state to harvest some of those blooms. I may take some more yet. This is one example of a hydrangea that I will not leave the blooms on over the winter, because if I did, these stems would probably break from the weight of the ice and the snow. A little bit of yellowing happening on this foliage, which is from a bleeding heart that blooms in spring, but that's just because of the time of year. That's very normal. And I actually really enjoy kind of that changeover of color when you start to see things fade. Hostas can take on a really rich gold yellow color, kind of an ochre color. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's very earthy and lovely, and it kind of glows in the evening. The chartreuse of this grass with all of the seed heads on it is gorgeous. I have been so lucky to have this do so well in my garden. I've heard from many of you saying that you struggle with it. I would just say that this is a shady area and it's very well drained soil. So definitely does not like to be too wet or in too much sun. So that's kind of the tips that I could give you based on my experience with it so far. And my gosh, you guys, look at this Pinky Winky. This is one where when the sun shines down from the top of it, it glows from top to bottom. It is magnificent. I highly recommend the Pinky Winky to any gardener. It's magnificent in full sun, and it just brings, you know, a few seasons of color to you between the white blooms and then the pink blooms and then the deep dark pink. I'm kind of leaving right now the blooms that are spent on the oak leaf hydrangeas. They're a dark brown color, which is very earthy to me. And you know, when I look at it next to this fungus, it looks pretty cool. I don't know what you guys think, but I just love some of the things that nature puts out for me, and I like to enjoy it as much as I can. So I probably will clip some of those off before the winter, because I think they might also get weighed down because they are kind of fluffy, but I haven't had a lot of blooms on them in the past or have a lot of experience with them, so we'll see how they do. Our little haughty hydrangeas over here are finally really starting to bloom, so that's nice. I still think we won't get a full bloom on them until sometime this week, but I'm looking forward to it. Now, this plant right here is beautiful. This is not Stairway to Heaven. This is Heaven Sent. I always want to call it Stairway to Heaven. But look at the gorgeous color on that. It's almost stripy, and it goes with beautiful veining in the leaves. That is just a stunning, stunning fall color. And that had beautiful blooms in the spring. So definitely a few different seasons of interest on that one. I'm looking forward to seeing how that comes back. I've heard that is fairly deer resistant, and so I might even try that in some other spaces as well. I love the texture of the foliage. I love the color of it, and the blooms are also really beautiful. I did move these 2 heucheras together in this garden bed just for a little bit more of an impact, so you might notice a little bit of a difference in the way that this garden bed looks right now. And I really like it. Again, sometimes just those really small changes can make a huge impact in the garden. Now over here, I did divide some Brunnera, so you can kind of see they look a little scraggly in the middle right there. These are the Jack of Diamonds Brunnera, so we'll be having to wait for those to grow back on and fill back out next year, but they definitely will come next spring. Right now, I like to think of it as root development time. So we divide, we transplant, and then let those roots develop. Next year, we look forward to the growth of the actual plant itself. Continuing to enjoy this area, we're starting to see some additional colors of dark pink on these Cape Lookout hydrangeas. I still need to plant out this Queen of Diamonds right here, this Brunnera. I'm going to take this one into the way back. And I think so far our hydrangea is looking really nice here. This is the Let's Dance Can Do that we planted here. And you can see I've got a vole or a mole or something back digging in my garden. But I really am enjoying that, and I think it's going to continue to grow in this direction next year because it does get some sun from this direction as well. The hostas, many of them are kind of looking a little bit worse for the wear right now, which is pretty normal this time of year. But they have a little bit more sun now that we took some of the additional trees and some of the old foliage out of this tree. So with the additional sun, they definitely get a little bit more stress with that. So we'll see how they adapt next year. But the heucheras over here are doing amazing. They're fantastic. And the beautiful little alyssum down here is gorgeous as well. And so this area just continues to do well. Just look at that firelight hydrangea and the deep color. It's so rich on this. It's just incredibly saturated. Couldn't ask for anything more out of a hydrangea. I'm expecting to start to see some color soon on the Fothergilla back here, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to take you in the way back real quick. Let's go. Okay, there's just a couple things I want to show you back here real quick. One of them is all of this beautiful little dainty flowers, which are the wood asters. So these are a native, and they are all throughout this garden bed that is between the stairs back here. And you can see this is where I planted that superstar spirea that we removed to plant the Let's Dance Rave hydrangea in the upper garden. And so those look great. We still have this is some carex that we have lining the stairs right here. And we have some grass that planted itself that has some really pretty seed heads on it. This is just whatever planted itself here. But we have more mums that are blooming back here, which I think brings a beautiful pop of color, along with those garlic chives. And then I transplanted a boxwood back here, one that wasn't doing so good. So I took one out of a container that I put along my boxwood hedge and replaced it with that, and then took the one that wasn't looking so great back here to see if it did better in this situation. So for me, the Green Mountain boxwoods tend to do the best for me. So over here in this corner, as we come back into the back garden, is the little lime, and that one has beautiful light coloring on it, and I like it in this space. It's probably one of my favorite spots besides the lady. I do have one that's on the deck that I want to plant out because I don't think it looks that great anymore in the container. And then we put some lungwort down here. These were the volunteers that were self-seeders from the Pretty in Pink. I wish I had gotten 3 of them, but I'll take 2. That's great. In addition to that, then I just added some sedum along this garden border, tucked it right in. I think that's kind of a nice foil for all of that green foliage from the lilies, because the daylily foliage tends to look kind of bad this time of year. And I really feel like we just needed a different texture as well. There was something about it. So I'm enjoying that. Now down here, I have to tell you, this is a beautiful, beautiful area for me right now. I just love the pinks and the blues and the purples. We have the pugster blue butterfly bush over here, which is in full effect. And we have pollinators everywhere in the garden these days. The sedums are covered with it. The butterfly bushes are covered with it when it's warm out. Right now, you know, the sun's going down, so the pollinators are kind of starting to settle down for the night. But I just love this garden bed right now. It's really a beautiful combination of colors and textures, isn't it? And then up above, you'll see we're starting to get some additional blooms on the clematis. So a little bit of a late summer push by that Comtesse du Bouchard. And then a few daisies. You can see the blooms are finally starting to open up on that. We've had the buds on them for a few weeks now, trying to get ready to bloom, but it's been rather chilly. In fact, our nights have actually gotten down to the mid-40s, so that's really pretty low for this time of year. And look at this. I feel like this is like very autumnal looking over here. We have these gorgeous, gorgeous blooms on the mums. They're kind of this orangey, burnt red look, and I love it. They are giant, and they are making a huge statement in the garden right now, aren't they? Let's look at this one with the heucheras in front of it, and then we have the beautiful 9-bark behind it, the little devil, and all of those color combinations just playing together so nicely. Just stunning. And of course we have some gorgeous blooms still on the vanilla strawberry, even though I have already cut lots of them to harvest so that I could use them as dried flowers. And again, that is one that I definitely will cut back for the winter time because I really want to ensure that I don't get ice or snow damage from it, and the blooms on it are so huge. This sedum is looking gorgeous, all lit up from the sunshine. And we're gonna do some planting out of these limelight hydrangeas soon, you guys. I can't wait to do that. I'm looking forward to changing out these pots to something a little bit more autumnal as well. And I'm leaving up the incredible hydrangea blooms, at least until they all really change over to be fully brown, because I think they're gorgeous. And let's just take a look at the cutting over here that we have, which is growing on great. I dug out some of the liatris that was next to it just to ensure it had lots of room to grow and didn't feel crowded in there. And then I placed a few small transplants of the chocolate chip ajuga there so that it can continue to grow on and cover the ground there. And you'll see we have an Italian aster back here that is blooming, a beautiful lilac purple color. And believe it or not, we have some of our, what are these called? Primroses. Our primroses are actually blooming right now. Isn't that cute? It's, I didn't know that they would bloom for so long during the season, but they've been blooming on and off. I would say pretty much all season. It's kind of crazy to me. And over here we have our gorgeous combination of the little haughty hydrangea with the neon sedum, which has started to get so bright. And I'm wondering if that little haughty hydrangea is going to do better in this container next year, if I should keep it in a container or if it will do better out in the landscape, just because of the browning of the foliage that I've seen on it. But it may yet just be, you know, working on establishing its roots. So I'll probably keep it in the pot for another year anyways. Well, I have cut off some of the limelight blooms already over here because they were so big and so heavy for such a small plant. And they have made some really nice dried flowers, but we have that surrounded by that gorgeous neon sedum. And then you'll notice I have come through and I've cleaned out all of my alliums. So they went over last week and I left them up for a bit just to look at the seed heads, but I didn't want them to completely dry out or, you know, spread seed about. So I have cut all of the seed heads off and left the foliage standing. So I used to like to come in and cut the stems all the way down to the bottom, but because I have so many of them now, that's really just not feasible for me. It would take me hours. So instead, I just grab them like a ponytail and cut all of the seed heads off. Now I'm really excited to report that this can-do hydrangea is showing me some new buds. So I may get a whole nother flush of blooms before our first frost date in October. So that's exciting. If those come out within the next couple of weeks, that's going to be gorgeous. And it looks like I actually missed a few heads of the sedum right here, or not the sedum, the alliums right here. So I'll have to come through and cut those off as well. But everything's looking really, really good. So lush for this time of year. Again, I think September is wonderful with the second wind it gives everything. Just look at that lavender, isn't it gorgeous? This is the second blooming of that as well. Now this is our Let's Dance rave, and it's definitely, you know, continuing to acclimate to its new space. We've got some buds on it, and we're waiting for some new blooms to come out and see what color they are now that it's down in the soil. So I think we'll probably get some to open before our first frost date. Well, out here in the front garden, I definitely need to do a trim back on this burning bush tree, but I may wait to do that until the late winter and just leave it up for now. We'll see if we get any color on it. I don't usually get much because this is on the east side of the house, so it only gets morning sun. If we look at the neighbors, they have a really giant one over here, and it is actually starting to change color, but mine is not. So theirs gets really nice color because it faces west. So this is the Strawberry Sunday Hydrangea, still looking fabulous and just pushing out some late blooms because of the nips by the deer. And then as we come forward here and look at the boxwood hedge, this right here is the one that I had just planted today because I replaced one that looked a little more like this, which was what we planted in the way back. And so again, I think that the ones that don't look so great are probably the green velvet variety, when the green mountain variety is what really does well in my garden for whatever reason. And when I bought these, you know, I bought them as really small shrubs, and I didn't realize when I bought like a whole bunch of them that there were actually different kinds of them sitting out on the same table in the same area. So now I'm kind of stuck with what I've got, and we'll probably have to replace some of them with more expensive, larger sized shrubs at some point, or try to figure out a way to catch them up and just keep them small at this size, because I don't really want them to get huge anyways, because this is a walkway, so I do want it to be a manageable size. I don't want them to take over that path. Now over here, you'll notice that this garden bed has completely changed since our last video. This whole long border has been cleaned up. I did come through and cut back all of the purple coneflowers because they were looking really, really tired and distraught. I did notice that I missed a couple here on the end, but you can see we've had a lot of birds coming in and taking out all of the seeds, and they looked really bad, and we were starting to see a little bit of powdery mildew throughout the garden, and I didn't want it to spread. So I cut back as many phlox as I could, and I cut back as many of the purple coneflowers as I could, and that will have opened up the airflow in this garden bed. And I also think it's just really allowing some of the other colors to show through, like these mums, which are gorgeous. And then I did plant a pugster periwinkle in here that I found on clearance just the other day as well. That's one that I've always wanted. I don't know, there's something about the shape and color of the blooms on that one that is just gorgeous. So that is going to face south and should get plenty of sun. So it'll get east sun in the morning and south sun all day. We do have some phlox and some asters that are blooming in here right now. Here's some asters that have just kind of opened recently that are a beautiful color. And those phlox are still glowing in the background. But most of the phlox have gone over by now. I did pull out the flowers that were in the containers, so those square containers are now empty. I've been kind of going through my containers and starting to pull out what I wanted to put into the ground as perennials. So you see we have a couple of those giant pink dianthus that I've planted in this garden bed in the hopes that those will come back in spring as well. The Gara is kind of finishing blooming, but something that is now starting to really show after I cut back the coneflowers in this garden bed are the beautiful rose hips. Look at those orange rose hips. So this is the Oscar Peterson rose, and I have one on either side of this elderberry. And this other one I think you can see even better because the sun is just shining on them and making them glow. Isn't that beautiful? And those help provide both, you know, some fall decoration as well as some food for wildlife. And our gorgeous orange mums here are really filling out now. This is only their second year here. I have a feeling that I'm going to have to kind of, you know, give them a little bit of a pullout in the springtime next year, or else they'll probably take over this garden bed. They are a really robust plant for sure, and they have stayed really nice and tidy. Gorgeous, gorgeous color on those though, right? I mean, they really light up that space. You'll also notice that I really did a cleanup job over here as well. I cut back all the salvias. I've come through and cut all of the allium back. But again, I feel like what that has done is just released a whole new view of the beauty that is there. So sometimes if you feel like your garden's looking tired, go out and check it out and see what might be able to be cut back, what you might be able to trim, just to tidy it up a little bit, and suddenly it will look like it's taken on a whole new life. But to me, this is absolutely stunning right now. I just love the pinks in this garden bed. They're so soft and fluffy. It's crazy. And I cut back the geraniums and all that as well. Now I haven't cut back the weeping cherry. It still is draping over. And I have some more cutbacks to do on this end. I wanted to leave up these coneflowers for a while though, because I still think they look good in this area. But on this end, definitely need to cut back the salvias and the coneflowers over here as well. Now, even though you see these daisies drooping, that's because it is the end of the day. In a few hours, these are going to perk back up. Every morning when I wake up, they look great. And I have continued to water them as well. So those are the transplants that we did. And just for reference, this is the one that we cut them off of. And then there's 3 others as well here. There's just some kids going by on their bikes right now. You might hear them saying hello, and I waved off to them. So cute. So these hydrangeas, they look great. And you can start to see the glow of the boxwoods amongst the hydrangeas and the mums now. And I think those colors just commingle very, very well. Now we have a little bit of darker mums over here. They're a little bit more of a red color, and I think they're spectacular as well, but they haven't opened quite as much. But they definitely provide a depth of color, and it's very autumnal and definitely a change of the season. So heading up to the front of the house, I still need to start thinking about what I'm going to do with some of the plants up here. I have a little bit of time to decide, like, am I going to take the geraniums inside over the winter and try to put them in a paper bag and overwinter them, or what? And I haven't made that decision yet. And eventually I'm going to have to change out some of these containers, but I think that they look pretty good still, considering how early in the year we planted them. We have still got lots of blooms on the impatiens, and the coleus has really filled out. And so I've just been super happy with how they have performed this year. Just a really nice bright pop of color. Now, I don't know, I'm a little bit worried about this azalea. This azalea continues to put out, you know, small blooms because it's confused because of the weather. So it worries me a little bit that I might not actually get blooms on it in the springtime next year, because usually they have to set now and then wait over the winter time, and then they open up in early spring. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I guess time will tell. It will be definitely very interesting to see. Wow, look at that, you guys. The sun just came out and it is making this firelight glow. This is why people love hydrangeas. Beautiful. Now I'm thinking about adding a little bit more of this phlox here because the monarda has not done very well. I'm not sure if it'll even come back yet or not. This is a very swampy area because of the rain coming out right here. So whenever we get a heavy rain, it's very wet, and the phlox seems to be doing okay with that and actually quite happy with it. So I might actually bring some more of that out here just to help camouflage the rain gutter. Now the can-do hydrangea out here is looking fantastic also. I love it. So far it hasn't been eaten by the deer. Hopefully I didn't just jinx myself. And our transplants are doing pretty good as well. Probably tomorrow I will need to come through and do another water on this hellebore, but it's doing great. It's a little bit floppy right now, but that's to be expected after you've kind of chopped and tortured it. I'm thinking about a weigela over here in this garden bed to add kind of a little bit of a depth of color on the end of it, but I haven't actually decided. I have this one that I took out of one of the planters earlier this spring. This is the spilled wine weigela, so it's a smaller one. Might look nice on the end of this border. Haven't decided for sure. Now somebody commented about how much this branch kind of distracted them, and I'm thinking that I might actually tie that in just to allow it to grow closer, or I might cut it off. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's kind of a wonky branch, I know, but it doesn't really bother me that much. There's also one on the other tree as well, and I don't know if I cut it off, will it fill in pretty well or not. I don't know how quick growing these are going to be because they don't get very wide, and they only get about maybe 12 feet tall. So if I cut one of those branches off, I'm not sure how they'll react. So I have to do a little bit of research on that before I consider it. Well, normally this time of year, the grass in this area of the garden is kind of brown and doesn't look great, but I think it looks really quite pretty right now over here as well. Things are a bit overgrown, I have to say. I clipped back this low growth sumac and it responded like crazy by putting out lots and lots of growth. So I think in the springtime, I will definitely give that a really good cut back just to keep it nice and dense, because it's a really beautiful shrub and it is low growing. It's not going to get a whole lot taller than this. We do have some great mum color right here finally showing. I transplanted these mums back here last fall, so I feel like that brings a nice little pop of color here. The heleniums are going over though. I collected some seed of that and kind of sprinkled it in some different areas, so we'll see if any of that comes up. And this spirea has actually put on a little bit of new growth on its ends as well towards the end of the season, so I have a feeling that one's really going to kick into gear next year, and it has such beautiful flowers in the spring. It's just gorgeous. And even this bed has gotten even more lush since the last time that we did a tour. Just look at it. It's crazy because the temperatures have cooled and we've gotten that rain. It just feels like everything has just greened up and kind of pushed that little extra last, you know, bit of life out that it can. Well, you guys, I hope you have enjoyed this garden tour today. I know I have really enjoyed this weather and being able to get out into the garden and really take on a lot of, you know, changes in the garden. And I hope you'll join me for some of that because we definitely have that planned for some of the next few videos. I did talk a little bit about some new plants that I've got from Great Garden Plants, so we'll show you those as well. All right, well, we'll see you next time. Bye.